Side to side, and a rhythmic break.
For the past 7 hours, this ear would not pop for some reason. I don't even know how it happened in the first place, but let's just get this over with because I'm way late on this review. Guardians of the Galaxy is an action-adventure game that has been published by Square Enix. Known for being completely broke in their journey, a pack of mercenaries, Peter Quill, Gamora, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Drax, who all hope to make a quick buck during their adventurous wanderings around the galaxy. However, while attempting to scam a wealthy collector, a seemingly harmless bet between two members triggers a small accident, which quickly sets in motion a series of catastrophic events that threaten the peace of the fragile universe unless a team takes responsibility of their actions and eradicates the threat. Now, I'm surprised that this game was actually pretty good. Actually, this game was more than good. It was fantastic in my opinion. Because let's just be fair here. Their last game by Square Enix, which was the Avengers game, was completely terrible. The game was lacking a lot of content. Most of the content we had to buy was lacking good enemies, was lacking a great story, lacking bosses, and just lacking, most of all, exciting gameplay. But with this game right here, Guardians of the Galaxy, it took everything that was wrong with the Avengers and fixes it. Which is kind of a letdown in my opinion, because you wouldn't think that the Avengers will be better than Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to the popularity, the story, and the configuration with the character development at all. But by playing this game and by playing the Avengers, it can be debatable. Now, I haven't read the comic books, so I'm not going to cheat my way to tell you which is better, how is it better, which characters is more influential when it comes to the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Marvel franchise. But I do know enough to know that this game is very superior to the fucking franchise of the Marvel Avengers franchise of the Square Enix that they have published recently. Now, before I get started to the deep dive of this review, I just want to say I apologize for not posting anything in a while. I have been under the weather lately, and I was also in the hospital. Hey. There's no need to be dramatic. I was in a very bad, condition last week. I'm still sick, unfortunately, but not enough for me to not bring you guys more material. I got a lot to catching up to do, so let's just get this over with, please. The story doesn't drag at all. You actually get attached to everyone pretty quickly, especially Peter Quill, the main character, which is Star-Lord. I love his character. He is a grown kid. Basically me. He just loves to just not bury his childhood, but just embraces it when it comes to the things he loves, the stuff that he loves to put himself into when it comes to his daily hobbies, and most of all with his music and his love with his family. You get attached with him as long as with every other character in the game, because when the game starts off, it shows you how ruthless the Guardians are. Gamora, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, you name it, they have it, Groot. But at the same time, as the game progresses, it actually shows you their bright side, their dark side, and their dramatic side. There were times where they would have a lot of good dramatic sequences when they just have a lot of downtime talking, and I'll get pulled in a lot. There'll be even times where you play the game and they'll just be talking and asking each other questions, which leads to the choices you make as they ask each other certain things when it comes to how you're going to progress through the game, who should they not trust, who they should trust, the choices they make with regards to either they should go this way or go that way. Is this person right? Is this person wrong? Now, these choices you make, and it kind of pressures it on you, not because you're the person playing, but because you are the main character, the main leader, the main guardian of the galaxy. So everything kind of hinges on you. So the choices of this game does play a tremendous impact. So you have to be smart, because it does play a big impact by the end of the game as well. Now it's time for me to talk about the combat. The combat is so freaking intense, which is what made the game, in my opinion. Now, the game, well, picture it like this. The game is a lot like Batman, mixed with Spider-Man, mixed with Shadows of Mordor, with a pinch of God of War. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you are the main character, Peter Quill, and your character uses guns, but as you progress through the game, you, as long as every other character, have their own different unique abilities as you unlock when you begin to progress through the game even more. And each character pulls their weight pretty quickly, especially Groot. I was surprised of how unique Groot is. All he does is just hold enemies, but when you level, well, not just level them up, but when you use certain perks of his character correctly and know when to use him, you'll be able to use him in the point where the enemies won't even phase you. I think I've only died twice in the game, but that's because of they had platformers in the game, and I hate platformers. But that's not enough for me to hate the game. Platformers is known for is like a video game known issue to have. But other than that, once you get the characters button configuration completely memorized, because it can be easily confusing to know which button to press to trigger a different unique ability with the characters, you're going to be able to obliterate these enemies, because you have Peter Quill, like I mentioned, that uses guns, so he shoots his way through the enemies through far distance. You can use certain specials when it comes to using devastator attacks to defeat a certain variety of enemies that surround you. You have Gamora that uses a blade that can afflict a lot of damage and can do a lot of critical attacks. Same thing with Drax, but Drax is more of a brute. So Drax like to pick up things and like to inflict as much damage as possible when it comes to fighting bigger enemies. Rocket Raccoon is actually the environmental explosive person, but if you use him in a certain way, because everybody have their own unique perks. I don't want to spoil too much, but when you use them correctly, then trust me, these enemies won't even touch you. And I played it on the hardest mode. Now, as you're doing these battles, you come across this feature that's called the huddle up mode. Now, this mode is basically a booster just in case if you're in doubt and the enemies is just too overwhelming and you're in the edge of defeat. Now, this feature actually boosts up when you defeat more enemies or when you're in engaging of combat too long. So what this mode does is that your characters, Rocket Raccoon, Gamora, Drax, what they would do is they will run up to you and you're supposed to give them an encouragement to let them know that, hey, look, we got this. But it all depends on the choices you make, because if you make the right speech correctly, then everybody will be boosted up and they'll be ready to beat a lot of ass. But if you mess up on your speech, then only you would get that booster and then everybody else would just fight the same. So you have to be very careful. I like that feature. That's actually pretty good in a game like this, because let's just face it here, when it comes to fighting enemies in games like this, they mostly want to focus on your basic instinct of how to overcome these enemies. But what if that's not enough? What if the enemies is too hard? What if the enemies is too difficult, to the point where even your characters are beginning to have doubts? There are games that does this, where the main character or the side characters are beginning to have doubts depending on your health or depending on how much the odds are stacked against you. But what I like about Guardians of the Galaxy is that they do focus on that. But when that happens, there's a feature where you can encourage them to snap out of that doubt syndrome and for them to keep fighting again. That's a pretty good feature to have, and I wish more games will have this. Now, that's just a combat on the ground. I didn't even tell you about the combat that you can have on your ship. You can actually have space fights in this damn game, which some people will say that should have been in the game, but with me, I partially agree with that, but at the same time, I was still happy with my heart content. Like, the fights in a ship. It's not fast paced. Well, it is fast paced, but it's not just, just nitpicked inside the game just because you're in space. But no, it's pretty intense. There was a lot of times where I was close to death, or I was just so on the edge of my seat when I had to fight a lot of enemies and stuff. I was getting a lot of, actually, with the characters, they're all bounty hunters, mercenaries, you just fighting in your ship, and with this awesome music, I was getting a lot of Cowboy Bebop vibes playing this game. You know what? If Cowboy Bebop made a game like this, it would be very identical. Only difference is that the fact that they don't got powers. But other than that, this game is very identical to Cowboy Bebop when it comes to them not getting along, them questioning each other, and them just getting themselves into a lot of fucked up shit, and just a lot of great music that just sets the tone to the gameplay tremendously. Now, as you progress into the game, you actually get costumes. You actually find costumes in the game progression. I was surprised because I actually liked the costumes that I had in the game already. In fact, I didn't even switch them up. But the costumes on the game is actually pretty cool. I actually liked some of the costumes. I didn't use them, but it was actually there just so people can change their minds and stuff. There's a lot of good costumes to choose from, and you know what? It's free. It's free. It doesn't cost any money. You can get all that stuff by game progression, and you don't have to spend a fucking dime. Fuck you, Marvel Avengers. This is a fucking good game. As you can see, I love this game a lot. This game is great. This game is fantastic. For those who are on the fence thinking maybe should I not get it? Should I get it? I don't know if I should get it so I can make Marvel Square Enix pay for what they did with Marvel Avengers. This game is basically them apologizing. I understand y'all frustration because let's be fair here. If they focus that same energy with Marvel's Avengers will probably debatably be better than Guardians of the Galaxy because they actually got more material. But does that mean that Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect game? Not quite. See, I had a couple of issues with the game that should have been addressed before the game's launch, and that is glitches. There was so many freaking glitches in the game. There were times where I was progressing through the game and I'll be stuck in one spot and I had to keep resetting the game or resetting the checkpoint. Now, some people would not complain about that, but the reason why I'm complaining about it is because it happened frequently. It happened a lot. Especially when there were times where I was fighting enemies and I was at the heat of the moment, and then the enemies would be stuck in one spot and I could not kill them because they're at the spawning point. So when I get close to them, then the screen would turn black for some reason and they will spawn me somewhere else, and then half my health will be gone. The second issue of the game is the fact that how come when I crawl in tight spaces or when I'm in ledges, I can't backtrack. What I mean by that is once you crawl in that spot, once you go to that ledge, you start walking, you can't go backwards. So you have to just keep going forward until you're done. Or when you get fully across, it didn't go back. That's a very bad feature in my opinion, because the reason I'm saying that is because there were times where, there was a time where I saw a collectible and for some reason I couldn't get it. It was right there, but it kept circling me back. And the only reason why I couldn't pick it up was because it was glitched out, or it would not let me pick it up for some reason. So I would have to crawl my way back through the beginning from before I saw that collectible, and then just try to go back again. But I would have to keep going back and forward, and it still didn't work. But other than that, glitches comes with every game, I guess, but not to the point where it should narrow down the score of the game. I want the game to be completely enjoyable. I want the game to be completely memorable. It's memorable and it's enjoyable, but at the same time, when I play games like this, and when I'm so heated to the moment, and I'm so heat to the thrill, to the point where I love it, it's actually running the risk of little things jumping in front of me, and it will just ruin the experience of me enjoying the game in the first place. I might have to give Guardians of the Galaxy a B. Guys, like before, I'm sorry I'm late on my review. I'm trying to squeeze them out as quickly as I can now since I'm in the condition to actually be on camera. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I've lost a few pounds due to how sick I was. But I should be fine for now, so just stay tuned. Well, that's all I have to say for today. Please stay tuned for more of my upcoming reviews and videos headed your way. This is Hugo, your critic teacher, and you guys have a damn good day.